Why gods of gods Shiva doesn't intervene with the timelines or destiny, part 2. So I've already made part 1, right? You can go about it. I have made a different playlist for part 1 and part 2, so you can find both the videos there. I uploaded part 1 yesterday, or maybe day before yesterday. So yeah, let me just give you a little recap of the story that we were discussing. And through the story, I would really want to discuss how Shiva is a symbol of stillness. And even knowing everything, he just knows all the timelines. He know how destiny, how people's destiny are going to intertwine and how things are going to merge and everything. He understands universe, of course. He understands what is going to happen in the future. um, and how does he do that? Sometimes we also meet some people, and we also, I mean, the problem with humans is that we give a lot of opinions and judgments. If we and that really distorts. Otherwise, we can also somewhere look at the future of people. Like, or we do that also sometimes. We look at people and we say, this is going down the drain. This man is going down the drain. This woman is going down the drain. This woman is crazy. This woman is foolish. So, if people usually have a lot of opinions and judgments. If you really try to keep the opinions and judgment aside, when you become a seer, when you become the third eye, then you can really sometimes really predict the future of people. So you can really see the timeline. You can see how you can see the feelings or of people. You can see beyond their personalities even. You can see the possibility as well. So yeah, all these things are there. So yeah, so Shiva is also like that. He sits still, he knows the future. He knows how destiny is going to take turn, how somebody's else's destiny is going to intermingle with somebody else's, and how it's all life and how life is going to play out. He knows, of course, he's the creator. He knows how life plays out. He is the designer the of the universe. So he knows how this works, right? So, yeah, that's exactly what even happens here. So, yeah, through this story, I will really discuss and really focus on the point why he doesn't intervene with the timelines, why he doesn't intervene with the destiny. So, I had also given an example of Doctor Strange and everything in the last video in part 1. You can just really watch it out if you're an Avenger Marvel fan or something. So but of course it's not. I really like the movies, and I really like those serials or those dramas which really simulate life. you know any kind of book or novel if it is a simulation. Simulation is what we say. Yeah, it's a simulation of life. Am I pronouncing something wrong here? Like, si- simulation is what we say, right? Okay. So not all stories, not all novels are simulation of life, are the copies of life. You know, some video games are also there, and not every video game is exactly the copy of life. Life is so how if you really look at the working of how life works, you know, um, how the destinies of two people come together. And I'm not even saying in terms of romantic relationships or all of these things. No, like sometimes um, I have a very beautiful example to share with you. For example, Draupadi, it was always Draupadi's revenge, and she manifested that revenge, that fire, and that's why Mahabharata happened, and yeah. So if you see that, and even I was also going through the history of Mahabharata, and I think I was listening to Sadhguru's story of what and how Mahabharata happened, and the history of Mahabharata and everything. So he was talking about Bhishma, and what happened with Bhishma was that he actually took um he took a vow to never marry and everything, and but he but somehow his kingdom was not invited at a Swayamvar. Okay, so Swayamvar is like, and it's a tradition, it was a tradition, and it was a Hindu tradition, or a tradition that was practiced in India. So according to that tradition, women can choose their own groom, uh, among various other options. She can go and just put the garland in any of the, or there were a lot of there were a lot of competitions held, for it's funny. There were a lot of there were a lot of competitions held. I mean, I don't know why people are doing this, but I think it must have made sense, back then or whatever. I don't know. So yeah, it's like, it's like she has a plethora of options, and she can choose to garland the person she wants to marry out of all of them. So the kingdom of Bhishma was not invited, and he really took it to his heart. He really got, he felt insulted. So what he did was he picked up the girls. Okay, he picked up the girls of the king from the ceremony itself, from Swayamvar itself. And so one of the girl was, had fell in love with a king and groom, and she was about to, marry that guy, in the Swayambara, in the ceremony. But since she could not, marry that person in the ceremony, she because Bhishma took her to his own kingdom, because he said that why our kingdom was not invited, and everything, or why our kingdom's prince wasn't invited and everything. So since he took her, Bhishma, she got really angry, and she also, manifested. She also manifested revenge, for the clan of Bhishma. So of course the Mahabharata had to happen. Mahabharata happened between the two clan of brothers, the Pandavas and the Kauravas. So it's sometimes revenge also manifests, and it does manifest. Everything that you want to do, it does manifest. But the more and more I have experienced life, the more and more I have studied life, the more and more I look at life, the more and more I realize that, you know why manifest things for others? Why not manifest things for ourselves? you know and people unconsciously breed, that fire inside of them, and very unconsciously they manifest what they manifest. Nowadays a lot of things out there, how to manifest and everything. People also ask me. I am a healer and spiritual healer, so people usually ask me, by the way, I'm available for one-on-one sessions, so if you want to come and come for the healing sessions, I am available. I i work at Roots, and I have a very different way of working, right? Yeah, yeah. So usually the questions are, do you know Reiki? Can you do that? The usual, the systems that are there always. And there is no, I'm not completely, discarding those systems. And some of them are really important, and some of them have helped me as well. But I have a different method altogether. So you really have to contact, you really have to mail me, really have to show some seriousness of really why you want to come and everything. So yeah, and of course you get to decide later on. You get to, you keep your things, I keep my things, and that's how the decision takes place, right? Okay. So yeah, we actually unconsciously manifest things. You know it's just not always just one way. Things can be manifested in unconsciously, and people actually manifest things unconsciously, mostly, many of them. Nowadays there are some manifestation techniques are very much, manifestation techniques out there. You do this, you do law of attraction, this, that, wo sab. But I have a more deeper understanding of life, and I my answers come from there, my techniques come from there, my strategies come from there. So yeah, most of the manifestations, people try to do it from their mind, and it's like a smaller intelligence. But if you really come to your center of your being, of your whole being, and if you manifest from your higher self, you connect with the higher intelligence, you connect with your soul, and that's how you manifest. That's a stronger manifestation. It takes time, it doesn't happen overnight, first of all. Well, wait a minute. Have you, when we used to, go to school, and we had our exam, or, it was a tough day at school or something like this, some books had to get checked, some copies had to get checked, so we used to, sometimes it would happen, the next morning we're getting feverish, we're getting having all the cough and cold. What is that? As a kid, you manifested that disease somehow, so that you don't have to get to the school, so sometimes people do that, right? They're not only just lying, they really manifest disease for themselves, you know because they just, out of fear, maybe out of fear, but they do, so manifestations are of various kind of greed, of fear, and unconsciously people are doing what they're doing, and consciously they are also doing, and they're doing it from their small intelligence, that is their mind, so they're so programmed with Maya and Matrix. So they try to manifest from that programming, but if you really want to manifest something big in your life, you know um really, you have to start listening to your soul, which is the higher intelligence. We start listening to your higher self, and we completely got derailed from the topic that I'm supposed to do, and it always happens like that. So yeah, where was I literally, where was I? Wow, how did I come to manifestation? What was the point I was making that I came to manifestation? I started talking about uh Bhishma, and what was the name of that woman? Forgot the name of the woman as well. Forgot names. I don't know why am I doing the videos. I don't know. Oh god. Wait. Why? I think I have to go through my video again, and of course I have to merge this video with the next. Yeah, so I was talking about simulation of life. Not all novels are the simulation of life, not all stories are simulation of life, and that's how I turned to manifestation. So, whatever. So, this Hindu mythology, I find these stories, they are very much, they have such a straight perspective. They have such a straight perspective, they've the perspective, they want to put through these stories is like so close to truth, and of course, the more and more you improve in your perception, the more and more you can, see the understated, codes, in these stories. The whole universe is actually a code if you really look. um, Everything is a code, and we don't have to analyze it. We just have to feel it through our heart, and it becomes easy. We start to analyze, judge, divide, this is good, this is bad. Imagine mango tree is bad, or apple tree is good. That would be just so stupid, to do that, isn't it? But thank god we have not done that to our trees, but we try to do that, and that's how we distort how to see, that's how we distort our perceptions. So it's a good copy of life. Okay, so now we'll just come back to the story. And now we'll discuss, what we want to really discuss, why Shiva doesn't intervene, why he's stillness, even if he sees, he has his third eye, he know demons come to him, to take blessings and everything, and he still gives them away. Even when he sees future, he still does not act, and it's a, sometimes to not act is your also a karma, when stress comes and it's just so swaying and it's just so forceful, but try and maintain that stillness, let that pressure, social pressures come, let that, stress come, but you can always choose, can always find your center back, I think nowadays it's become very normal to take stress, people somewhere have started to feel that fear is meaningful, fear is useful, it's not. I mean, don't, let's say a lion appears in front of you, will you waste time in fearing him, sitting and, oh, fear, no, you will just run away, right? You won't waste time fearing, right? Yeah. So this is complete mischanneling of energy, fear is a complete mischanneling of the energy given to you by God. Okay, it has become very normal, people have started to, take pills and everything. We have to understand, that no, it is not. The narrative has to change. Start listening to people who say that stress is not normal, and we don't want it. We choose to stay still, even all these, pressures, social pressures. We choose to stay fearless, even among all these, people trying to, or life experiences or situations trying to scare us. That is what stillness is, and that is what Shiva represents very much. So, yeah, we were through the story. So, let me give you a little recap of the story. So, so now Nahush, who is the son-in-law of Shiva, is the king of the heaven. Okay, before, Indra was the king of the heaven, but he was dethroned by Shiva himself because of some of his bad deeds. And in the earlier kingdom of Indra, Kinnar community, the transgenders community living in the heaven, were, very impartially treated by the king, right? So now we have a new king, which is Nahush, which is son-in-law of Shiva. Now the Kinnar community, you know, uh, join hands with the demons. Okay, demons live in Asur Loka. Okay, so there are three lokas: the heaven, the earth, and the third is demon lok, or the, I mean, Asur Lok, or the demon world, whatever. So the third loka. So demons, represent low consciousness. Okay, people who are from low consciousness. So what do? They try to, fill the ears of, the Kinnar community against the new king. The previous king has also done this, the new king will also do this. Join hands with us, let us kill the son-in-law, let us kill the king of the heaven. Okay, then I will take you to the Asur Loka, then I will take you to the demon world, and I will give you all the respect that you need. So demons make a deal with the Kinnar community, or the transgenders living in the heaven. Okay, that let us both join hands, let us kill the king. Okay, and then we both will go to the Asur Lok, the demon world, and I will give you all the respect, all the resources, whatever you need. So that is the plan. Okay, now what happens is that it happens. They go and they really try to, scare the king, and they really try to, tell their plight and everything, and they really try to scare it. What happens is then, um yeah, what happens is that they have gone, they have made a encounter once. Okay, then they come back and they really pray very hard to Shiva. Okay, they pray to get a weapon, so that weapon is known as, it's basically a kind of a rope. Okay, and that weapon is so powerful, and it is designed by Shiva himself. Okay, and and he uses that weapon, Kinner community, that transgenders want to use that weapon and use it, for to arrest or to really hold the king himself. Okay, so they really pray very hard to Shiva, and they ask for this weapon, so that but this is a very powerful weapon, and whoever comes catch hold of this rope, of this weapon that they have got from Shiva, cannot leave, okay, they will be in there, you know so they really pray hard. Now, the daughter of Shiva, okay, who is the queen, who is the wife of, Nahush, okay. Nahush is sitting as the king of heaven. So now she begs Shiva that don't give them weapon. I know they are praying very hard to you, but don't give them the weapon. Otherwise, my husband will be in so much problem, and he's also your family, he's your son-in-law, you cannot do this to your son-in-law. That is not good. But Shiva says, Shiva doesn't intervene. He this is the point where, he doesn't intervene. Now, if you look at the whole story, if you look at the whole thing, you will find that it is actually a very serious situation. It is actually a situation like where, it feels like if this happens, if weapon is given to these Skinner community, if this weapon is given to these transgenders, the son-in-law is dead for sure. That's the plan of, the demons and the transgenders together. That's the plan, that they will kill him, and Shiva knows that, everyone knows that, and it is a very serious situation. Of course, it's the husband of his daughter himself, and it's a very serious situation, and there seems to be like everyone is like dead sure, of course it will happen, don't give him the weapon, don't give him the weapon. But he says, no, it is my dharma, to give, they are really doing it from their heart, let me go and give it to them. He does that. Okay, even demons come to him, ask for this wealth, that wealth, give me this power, that spiritual power, and he gives them. Okay, and these and they all get their lessons, at the end of the day. He never intervenes, he never takes decision from his own mind, he lets it happen, because um he knows how manifestation works, he knows how life works. you know um you wishing for, you know you wishing for something for revenge, you are basically wasting your energy, for a revenge with somebody, right? I mean, of course, I cannot deny that transgenders have really gone through really harsh treatment, and that's the truth, and but still, he allows all of these things. Okay, and he says that I cannot intervene with the destiny, let them have it, they they also deserve it, and I am just, and uh let destiny flow, let this destiny take its turn, and this is, how he also teaches you the lesson of being in the now, being in the present. The future, the future that everyone was seeing, that Nahush will be dead in the morning, Nahush will be dead in the morning, everyone thought that, has not even played out yet. The future hasn't even played out yet. How are you so sure? How is everyone so sure it is going to play out like that only? Let destiny take its flow. Let's uh, do you really think that revenge is that strong enough? Do you really think, that it will manifest itself fully? Let's see. So that is, he also teaches you the power of now, that, it's so important for everyone to be in the now, to be in the present, it's just, yeah, it's so important for each one of them to be in the present, you know, and not in the future. The things haven't even played out. Give it time, just chill, just relax. That has been his teachings. Be still, not chill, not relax, but he teaches to be still. Okay, I mean, chill or relax is also okay, whatever. But chill or relax ना थोड़ा सा मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि थोड़ा lazy हो जाता है. But stillness is different. Sometimes stillness also takes a whole lot of effort. In amongst those social pressures, peer pressures, you know, among those all those things, to be still, it takes effort. Okay, chill and relax is different. Okay, so yeah, he says, I can only be in the now. Subha ki subha dekhenge. Okay, we'll see what happens to Nahush in the morning. We do whatever we have to do, but right now it's my dharma as a god. They're calling me, and and their pain is very much, um, reasonable. Their pain is reasonable. They've really gone through a lot, and they really want to do what they want to do. So let me just give them the weapon. So he gives them the weapon. Okay, and all of this thing happens. So, but what happens in the morning is that, the when they take Nahush, they take the king, they bring him as a prisoner using that weapon, into the Asur Loka, into the demon world. And when, the demons are trying to kill Nahush, the king, at that point, the Kinners, or the transgenders, it start to demand, first tell us, what will you give to us in the demon world? We have got him, we have got the prisoner, we have done what you wanted us to do. Now tell us, what will you give us, in the Asur Loka? What position will you give us? How much respect we will get here? Basically, they're transgenders really wanted, to be seen, to be heard. They just wanted love in their life. They just wanted to be accepted, because their families had also disrespected them since they were born and everything, and they were just looking for love, for respect, for being celebrated, and every human being somewhere, wants that at the end of the day. So what happens is that, the demons completely starts laughing, and he says that, you fool, I'm not going to give you anything, gay wo sab. And then, he even attacks the transgenders, and he tells them, he also rejects them, and he says that, go and die in that water, in the pool of water over there, go and die. And he really spells something, and and this the skin of the transgenders, it starts to burn, and he says, go and die in that pool of water, go jump, and all of this. So they were really burning from inside. The burning on the skin was basically trying to show that they were really burning from inside. That one last ray of hope that they received from the demons, that maybe in this world, of all the three worlds, at least in this world we will be accepted. And they were not accepted there. They were even rejected. They were rather betrayed. First they were shown, they were given false promises, and then they were betrayed. So they really, they were running away. They're really running away with that burning. It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor, basically. you know yes, I mean, in the show it is shown that, he spells something, and their skin starts to burn. But it's in a very metaphor way. They really start to burn inside from the rejection, they finally faced. you know and they were just about to jump into that pool of water. And exactly then, Shakti, the wife of Shiva, appears, and of course, who guided her to come was Shiva. Of course, Shiva is like, he is that guiding, channeling person, So now he knows when not to intervene with the destiny, and he knows how to turn the destiny. He knows when to turn the destiny. So he sends Shakti that, now you go. Okay, now you go and save all these transgenders from dropping down into the sea, take care of them. And that was a time I was thinking, why would Shiva do that? Like, all this while, he could have gone to them, in um, in the kingdom of Indra as well. He could have gone to them in the kingdom of Indra as well, when they were impartially treated. Why didn't Shiva intervene then? Shiva didn't even intervene when they joined hands with the demon worlds. He never intervened. He just intervened exactly at the right time, when now these transgenders were completely in a surrendered state. They were like rejected from everywhere. They have no hope left. you know they have they have seen all the world. They have seen the faces of the world, how everyone is. And finally they find the surrender. They really finally surrender. They're about to die, but exactly then the god sends Shakti. And she is the mother. She has very motherhood feeling. And she takes all the transgenders. She hugs and everything, and stops them from uh, you know going down into the water. And that's how transgenders also learn the lesson, that they don't have to you know um, believe all these people. They should have gone to Shiva way before. you know and they don't have to go through all the pain that they have gone through. Okay, or they should have surrendered before only. But sometimes you have to take the lessons before you really really surrender to God. And that is a time when God really appears, even if you don't ask for him. Because you are in surrender state, God is going to appear completely when you've really tired from everything. You've really up you have to really move your hands and body. You really have to, yeah, you really have to work hard. Until you really have to move, you really have to go to places, you really have to discover, experiment, everything. And then there will come a point where naturally you will naturally come into the surrender state. you know and that's exactly when the god will appear. That's exactly when the guru will appear. So I think that was a point when Shakti had to appear, because they were wanting of love. you know and because of that love, they wanted revenge, they wanted this, they wanted that. But when mother appeared, the Shakti appeared, she embraced all the transgenders. And finally, they they said, now okay, fine, now we don't want to do this. So you see, now before last night, everyone thought that, of course, Nahush is dead now. By tomorrow morning, everyone thought that. Sometimes really some situations really come into our life like that. Where situations are like, it's a dead end. There is nothing beyond this. Of course. But and because of that, people really you know betray themselves. They go astray from the path of their dharma. And they take up the path of adharma. They betray themselves. Their soul is wanting them to do a certain thing, certain way, but they will betray themselves. They will go by the small intelligence, rather than the bigger intelligence. So but Shiva knows, that something will happen, or something will come into in such a way that the love will always win. That's how the world is. That's how exactly the world wins. Why many stories are not having happy endings? Because people are really betraying themselves. That's why they don't get a happy ending. you know but you know how universe works. If your ending is not happy, it's not the ending yet. So you get born into another lifetime, and then you get born into other lifetime to have your happy ending and happy ending. And but rather we, you know our karma gets build up, and we move rather away from it. So yeah, so he leaves it on destiny. And see, destiny, you know the truth came out. The demon rejected them. Even they saw the face of the demons, and they understood that the asur, the demons, were really trying to fool them, betray them. So now they go back. They really free Nahush, free the new king of heaven. Nahush, son-in-law of Shiva, he frees the transgenders, frees them, transgender, free the new king, that is Nahush, from, from the demons, and everything gets better now. So yeah, that was the story. When you see dead end, that's exactly the point when we move towards a dharma. But you should not, stick to your dharma, stick to the soul, stick to your inner voice. Don't compromise yourself. Don't. Okay. I know it's gonna be very tempting, to get things all right in the now, by compromising yourself. But no, it may work, it may work there and then, but in the long term it is never going to work. It is never going to work. I've seen that with my own eyes. I've seen lives of people around me. I've seen my own life, and I know this happens. I know this is how exactly it works. So let me know in the comment section if you really like the story, and you can ask some questions if you really want to ask, around the story or around the topic. So yeah, it's great connecting with you all. Thank you for watching the video.